topic of civilian training has been a pretty controversial debate for some time now. The majority of the community encourages basic firearms training, but trying to learn anything beyond that may introduce some resistance. I personally do not have any law enforcement or military background, so all my opinions in this video are coming strictly from the viewpoint of a civilian that loves to train. And I think that's very important to say because even if you don't have a professional background, I think it's still important that your voice is heard. So in this video, I'm going to talk about how ethical I think it is for civilians to train, and if it's truly just a waste of time. Before we get too far in this video, I'd like to say thank you to our channel sponsor, Obsidian Tactics. Obsidian Tactics is an online retailer that offers a curated selection of high quality and high value products that have been vetted throughout the 2A community. A lot of the items they offer are well-known brands that you may already be looking to purchase. So go visit Obsidian Tactics for all your 2A needs and wants. All right, back to the video. For those who don't want to stick around through the whole video, I'll just let you know right now, I definitely think it's ethical for civilians to be training to the highest standard they're capable of. I'm pretty sure we can all agree on the saying, you are your own first responder. Your local law enforcement agency does the best they can with the resources that they have, but you can't solely rely on them when seconds matter the most. So as a result, we teach ourselves how to use firearms and how to be proficient with firearms. This was the reason for me and many others to get into the firearm space. And with that, the majority, if not all of the community, welcomed us with open arms. But I've always had the mindset of wanting to be overqualified for potentially the worst day of my life. So I sought out other methods of training, with one of those methods being competitive shooting. In my rifle build video, I strictly talked about shooting as a standalone skill. I emphasized if you want to get better at shooting as a skill itself, you can see a lot of benefits in competitive shooting. And I could definitely say I've seen my shooting performance skyrocket over the years since I've been participating in competitions. But being a prepared citizen involves much more than just shooting a gun quickly. I've had a few conversations with some friends about wanting to sign up for Stop the Bleed classes in the near future. Medical training is something that should be a top priority on your list, but that's not the main reason I'm making this video. Simply put, I have yet to meet a person that has discouraged any civilian from wanting to take a CPR class or Stop the Bleed class. But I do occasionally hear some opposition when civilians take interest in learning tactics. Now, I'm not going to go into the statistics of how unlikely a civilian is to use tactics in a real-world scenario, because that could be a whole nother video in itself. What I want to do is bring us back to what I said earlier in the video. I want to be overqualified for potentially the worst day of my life. And I think seeking out any form of education in regards to preserving human life is completely acceptable. I'm fortunate enough to shoot with a group of guys that encourage everyone from civilian to law enforcement and military to seek out as much information and training as possible. And because of this, I see everyone benefiting from it. The guys that come from the competitive shooting world are able to share their techniques and tips to maximize your shooting performance. The law enforcement guys are able to share their professional experiences in the field that other civilians may encounter, as well as things to look out for legally. And the military guys are able to share their experiences, whether it be in firefights, mission planning, or navigational skills. Having a melting pot of shooters coming from different aspects of life can hold a lot of value in the civilian world. And civilians should not be afraid of wanting to learn what these guys are willing to teach. I'll say it again. I'm not saying there's a high probability that a regular civilian will need to deploy any form of tactics, but if we take a quick look at the start of the Ukraine-Russian war, many civilians were forced to learn tactics as well as learn how to use a firearm in a short amount of time. So I like to keep an open mind when it comes to the reality of civil unrest and war. And though I may not ever need tactics such as CQB or being able to shoot long range in my lifetime, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. So why wait until the last minute to learn a skill that is readily accessible for you to learn? I'm going to avoid getting too deep into politics simply because that's not what my channel's about. But it would be naive of me or any of us to think that war couldn't ever touch down in our home country. So what's the harm of learning different applications of force or taking some CQB classes just for your own personal education? The majority of gun owners in America will buy a gun and only take it out of their safe 2 to 3 times a year. if that. So for those of us who continue to train and improve on a monthly basis, we need to consider other complementary skills to coincide with our shooting practices. Now, I'm not saying every civilian has to go down this route. I just want to shine a light on if it's ethical to do so. I don't think there should be a restriction for civilians on how far they would like to take their training. And I don't think there should be any backlash if somebody decides to pursue said training. As always, you want to vet your instructors and make sure you're getting quality information from reputable sources. Whatever information you decide to take in is your responsibility to filter. So keep that in mind. Also, kind of playing off this topic, I also think civilians should acquire kit as a precaution. And I also think that you should train in your kit occasionally. How often you want to do this is completely up to you, but just leaving it in your closet for months on end is not going to do you any good. You want to stay familiar with your personal setup, so if you ever have to use it, it won't feel like a foreign piece of equipment. There are a ton of other subcategories under this topic that I haven't had time to hit, but I did want to make a video just to spark a discussion. I feel like a lot of people sit on the opposite sides of the fence when it comes to this topic. So I wanted to make a place where we could all share our personal ideologies on this subject. I definitely want to hear from all of you, whether you have military or law enforcement background, or even if you're just a regular civilian. I think everyone has something to bring to the table when it comes to talking about stuff like this. So definitely don't be afraid to voice your opinion. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. As always, I'll catch you guys in the next one.